discussion on the topic. Then after that, we'll take the questions from the
I think we lost our moderator. So till she joins, I'll take it up from there. So like she was saying, there will be a presentation on liquid democracy, followed by panel discussion, and then we'll have the third section that will be engagements from the participants with the panelists. Let me check up on her if she can join, and then okay, I think she's back. Laura, can you hear us, Dr. Laura?
yes.
Okay.
So sorry about that. I seem to have had a network issue.
No worries.
So I was mentioning that we are going to have 3 parts. There will be a presentation, then we'll have the discussion, then we'll take questions from the audience. So this program is being organized by YAFO Institute and Aid Block. And YAFO Institute is a policy research organization. And what they do mainly is that they promote libertarian ideas and free speech and all related issues. That's mainly it. And Aid Block, which is the African Institution for DeFi and Blockchain, they do works related to informing and sensitizing people about this and hearing.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the CEO of Aid Block, who is also the president of YAFO Institute, Mr. Nathaniel Dramina, to give us the presentation on liquid democracy. Nathaniel, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'll share my screen. Minutes. Okay, so good. It's evening in Ghana. I know people have joined the call from different parts of the world, but wherever you are, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. My presentation is going to focus on the topic liquid democracy, advancing blockchain technology for good governance in Ghana. So the outline for the presentation will look at the concept of liquid democracy, blockchain technology as a tool for liquid democracy, and then what and how good governance in digital age, and then we'll look at the conclusion. I think the moderator has mentioned about organizations that have helped put together this event, that's YAFO Institute co-hosting with Aid Block. Liquid democracy, we'll say, is a form of making collective decision that does not depend on representative, however, provides the power to delegate to another and the ability to withdraw a vote at any time. Now, if you realize our society has evolved, a lot of things are evolving. And that is what liquid democracy is about. If you look at the picture at the side of the slide, you see that in the beginning of the society, we have people, the chieftaincy institution, gathering at the compound of the chief's house to take decisions. So we call elders to come together. But with time, population grew, and then we have a parliament as an institution, we form government and parliament as an institution coming in to represent the people. Now, we realize that participation in that sort of democracy has become very far from the people. And so when we look at the concept of liquid democracy, it is just a form that is using technology to bring democracy itself closer to the people. Now, we see liquid democracy as an evolution to the traditional democracy that we know of. Like I mentioned, we all know the Mac computer, where its first debut, we can tell that when it came to the market, you saw the way it was in the picture on the slide, and how we have my MacBook Air that I'm presenting on it today. You realize that there have been a lot of transformation. However, our democracy has become static. But if we are going to evolve, then first of all, we need to agree on certain concepts. So we have our constitution, and we know when we come to participation, we have an underlying base that at age 18, you can participate in voting. So that is a consensus that we all can form, or we put a criteria to the participation, and liquid democracy allows for that. Bloom and Zuba have outlined 4 models or 4 key principles or underpinning that must be part of anything that we say it is liquid democracy. And the first one is direct voting on all policies. So in Ghana, for instance, we can vote on issue on e-levy, we can vote on issue on the recent taxes that has been imposed, we can vote on free SHS, we can vote on every decision. And if we turn out that the decision is not going on well, then it says we should be able to take away our vote. And that is what the 4th principle talks about, terminating of delegation of vote at any time. We should be able to say, okay, now we said we are doing free SHS, it's not working, we want to stop and review it. And so that's what the power liquid democracy gives. And then the 2nd principle talks about ability to delegate your vote to a representative, and then the representative should be able to also further delegate to another representative. And then the final one talks about ability to delegate at any ability to terminate delegation at any time. Now, liquid democracy is not just voting mechanism like we know it, but it goes beyond that. It gives us ability to express ourselves, to participate in every aspect of governance. Election, like we know, is like a day event, and once that day is done, it means it's over. However, with liquid democracy, it's like a continuous process, and it is not static. Like we need to wait for 4 years before we take a decision. So in liquid democracy, it's a living network that describes the power relations and distribution of power in temporary state within group. So it gives us that kind of ability. So we don't wait for 4 years to participate in another election like we have in our democracy here in Ghana. So once we have the ability to terminate on a policy, we can just stop it and then go and focus on something that is bringing more value. And that is what liquid democracy gives. So in a short equation, it says liquid democracy is e-government plus e-participation plus e-voting. Now, the concept of liquid democracy is something that has been in use from 2017. A lot of organizations, 2007, people have already started using it. So we have the Votorola, that is the early design of liquid democracy. And we can come to the popular one like Google Votes, where Google itself as an institution uses liquid democracy for collective decision making within the organization. The EU is using WeGov now to allow citizens to participate in EU activities. And the recent one, we have Brexit, We saw how the participation went. And now they are doing something that relates to us, it is the MiCA on blockchain. They have ways to make their citizens participate, and every EU citizen knows that there's MiCA coming. Unlike Africa, that we don't even know the next policy line of the African Union. And we also have the civic RASI. It's also being designed in 2012 in Vienna University of Technology. So it is also a form of liquid democracy that's also allowing participation. So it is already in use. Now we come to blockchain as a tool for liquid democracy, and we know of blockchain. For those of us who have not heard of blockchain on this call, we know that blockchain is a decentralized distributed ledger that records provenance of digital assets. So a blockchain has three key components. That is a digital asset, a ledger, and then a decentralized system, which refers to dilution of centrality. So in Ghana, I use Ghana, or most African countries, we have the seat of government in the capital. And if you go to the rural areas and you want government activities to be done, it's very difficult. And the blockchain decentralizes every aspect of it and make sure that you can participate from the remote of any part of the world that you can find yourself. So you can think of blockchain as a Google Doc where information or digital asset is recorded on it, and we can all connect them to that, where we can all see what is happening in it in real time, who has been what has been transferred to who, and who is doing what. So basically every activity that is done, if you come and edit something, it's recorded. Maybe a participant has deleted this on the Google Doc sheet to that. So we are able to see all these things in real time. Now, the blockchain is not Bitcoin. I mostly say this because the blockchain is actually the technology that makes the Bitcoin function. So when we talk about the blockchain, we are looking at the technology. We have several blockchains. We have the Cardano blockchain, we have Polkadot blockchain, Ethereum blockchain, Binance blockchain, and what have you. Now, blockchain is also a tool that can help to facilitate liquid democracy. And some countries are already deploying blockchain in various industries. In US, blockchain has been used for midterm voting. That was in 2018. In Japan, they have what we call smart cities, and they use blockchain voting system to decide. So smart cities like charter cities, where you have control everything within the city. Governance, everything, they take, those who live there take decision governing them, and what have you. And in South Korea, they are using it to pilot that has been led by IBM as a pilot voting. In Thailand, it is being used by the National Electoral Commission, let me put it that way, that for blockchain-based voting. Then we also have in the real world smart contracts that is also solving other problems in real world using dApps and what have you. In other industries, you can also deploy blockchain in real estate for effective management of real estate. I think countries like Estonia, UK, US, they are leading over there in the real estate. Georgia is also part in the real estate industry, where they are using blockchain to manage assets. And when you come to Africa, property rights and even land rights is problematic because not everybody has a better title to their land. And this is the root cause of most land litigation. On social activities, we have poverty reduction. Blockchain is able to help eliminate activities of middlemen that bring about unofficial and official fees when you are accessing even government services. So in Ghana, we call them grow boys. And blockchain can be used to eliminate such middleman activity. If you need any documents that has to do with the government, you are forced to engage the service of a guru person. Other than that, it will take years before you get access to some of these government services. And that is not helpful for our democracy. We also provide ability to fight corruption, because blockchain is tamper-proof, is immutable, tamper-proof, and you cannot do anything to it, and it's very open and transparent. So that is what it gives us in fighting for a better society. Now, when we look at governance in the digital age, like the presentation has mentioned, you realize that a lot of things has evolved, like I mentioned from the beginning, but our institution, government service, what is happening to it? We are having a growing population of people who do majority of things at the click of a button. In my home, you order food. In your home, you press button, you buy internet bundle. So a population also sees that even participatory in the traditional voting is becoming problematic, and people are not participating in voting because the idea of coming to queue at the polling station and whatnot is irritating. And so how do we get people to participate? And that brings us to good governance. So what are we doing? So when it comes to good governance, we are all experiencing it. And so I have a series of questions on that respect. How are we improving government services? If you want to buy light, for instance, we use the prepaid system in Ghana. You want to purchase, you have difficulties in purchasing electricity so that you use at your home. There are people using apps, building apps so that at your home, you are able to purchase electricity so that you use. You are able to purchase water for domestic activities at a click of a button. But it looks as if our traditional government's machinery is not allowing the mantra that is popular in the policy space, that is digitization. It is not allowing it to function when it comes to delivering of government services. And this is something that is core to good governance. Aside accountability to the people and whatnot, service delivery to the people also matters. And so when we look at good governance, we cannot ignore that. Also, we look at corruption or accountability, participation in the democracy. This technology is allowing for this to be done at a very open and high transparent level. So if we look at blockchain, we have various types, and we have the private blockchain as part of its demerit as a not trustworthy. But when you look at the public blockchain, as part of its advantages, we will see that a trustworthy system. So we have every opportunity to build DAOs or dApps to reduce corruption in our society, to also increase accountability using some of these digital tools. The technology has come to meet us, and I always conclude that when it is coming, it is up to us to accept it and adapt to it. A lot of young people will love to use email to vote in the national election in Africa on any day. However, our system is so opaque and unchanging to changing times. So it makes it very difficult. So even Africans in the diaspora are unable to participate in their own democracy back home. But we always call on them to come and help develop the continent. If they are not participating in governance, how will they be able to join when it comes to development? So the picture here talks about the 1910 advertisement against electricity, where it says that if you all go on electricity, we are all going to die because electric cables will kill us. But here we are today, we are doing a lot of things, and productivity has increased because of the advent of electricity. And I believe people back then in 1910 who were using kerosene lamp and resisted electricity, if they get the opportunity to live in today's world, they realize that they really went the wrong path. So thank you all for your time and your attention. I'll hand over to the moderator, Dr. Laura. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nathaniel, for that presentation. It was interesting and educative. I'm sure some of us might have some questions on the presentation. So I'd urge all of you to keep it in mind or note it down so that when we get to the question and answer session, we'll do justice to that. So at this point, we'll dive into the presentation. I hope panelists, everybody has access to their microphone and everyone is ready.
Yes, please.
So, all right. I think I just heard from Daniel. Is Vicentia available? Sani? Hello?
Yes, I'm here, standing here.
All right. Vicentia, I'm yet to hear from you.
Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, sorry, I think I have some noise in the background because I'm in a very conducive place, so pardon me.
All right, that's fine. So for anyone who may have joined late, we are having a discussion on voter apathy and liquid democracy. We just finished a presentation, a very educative presentation on liquid democracy. So now we are about to have our discussion with our panelists. I'm Dr. Laura Darko, and I'm the moderator for this event. So I'm going to give the panelists about 1 or 2 minutes each to introduce themselves, and then we'll get right to it. I'll start with Vicentia, and then the gentleman can follow afterwards. Hello. If Vicentia is not available to speak, let's take the introduction from Daniel.
Okay, so I'm Achab Daniel Abalantha, and the Director of Tech Security for 8Block.
All right, welcome, Daniel. Sani.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Sani Johnson, and I'm one of the Prometheus Fellow at SFL, and also the co-founder of one of the media organizing organization here in Nigeria called the Liberalist Center for Education. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and you're welcome. Vicentia.
Yeah, okay, so hello everyone. My name is Vicentia. I'm a blockchain and crypto enthusiast and educator. And basically I also work in the space in building products in Web3. So that's something brief about myself.
Right. Thank you very much, Vicentia. Before we begin the discussion, a few ground rules. We want everything to be nice and respectful. So I'd urge everyone to refrain from personal attacks, no derogatory remarks, and let's focus on the issues we are discussing instead of the people presenting them. Please, I hope we are all on the same page.
Yes, please.
Hello. All right, that's great. So to begin with, let's start by defining the key terms. We have voter apathy and liquid democracy. I know Nathaniel has said a lot about liquid democracy, but just a short, maybe a summary on each of these ideas from the panelists. Let's start with Daniel.
Okay, thanks for the opportunity. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, Danny, we can hear you.
Hello?
Proceed.
Yeah, hello, we can hear you.
Okay. So voter apathy is basically the lack of an interest in participating in elections at Yeah, at the basic level, that is what it means. And in situations where voting is not compulsory, you realize that many people did not go out to vote in spite of registering. However, in situations where voting is compulsory, people might deliberately destroy the ballot box, like they might make their votes invalid. That is the basic means by which voter apathy can be expressed. And the causes, some do that because of a lack of awareness. And then there is also a disillusionment or alienation. But liquid democracy is a form of collective decision-making that combines elements of direct democracy and representative democracy, usually through a software as Nat indicated earlier. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that definition. Let's hear from Vicentia.
Yeah. So basically, just as I think Sunny spoke, I think he has elaborated on it perfectly. Being that voter party is basically there's no enthusiasm among people who are eligible voters to participate in elections. Yes. So it may come from so many reasons, such as maybe they even feel like their votes don't actually count, so they are really not going to show up, or so many other reasons, because they feel like probably whatever the candidates have to offer, they don't actually have them in mind or anything of that sort. So voter apathy is basically there's no enthusiasm, there's no interest among the voters to participate in elections, and then it's basically indifference. So I mean, I've
All right,
witnessed
thank
some
you.
elections where I've witnessed some elections where I've just asked someone, "Are you going to vote?" The best like, I'm not going to vote, and they have their reasons for that. So that's basically that's voter apathy.
Hello. Please, let's hear from Sani too.
Okay, thank
Hello,
you
please,
very
can you
much.
hear me? Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So I would say voter party is like when people are less, that they are unconcerned about electing their representatives, or maybe participating in an election process. And one of the major reasons why it happens like that is because maybe they lose trust in the process, and maybe basically because they feel that maybe some say maybe the person that was put forward for them to be voted, for them to vote for, it's not the kind of people that would support their interest. So majorly, people intend voter apathy happens when people are less concerned about voting for their representatives. And that really happened recently in our election that we have in Nigeria, because we have the lowest ever election, lowest participation in the election process for the country in recent time, and it has really bring about a lot of media attention from here in Nigeria and from part of other countries. And also, when we're talking about liquid democracy, it's like liquid democracy, to me, I would say like it's a combined advantage of direct democracy and representative democracy, and it creates a truly democratic voting system that empowers voters to either vote on issues directly, or or maybe possibly to delegate voting power to a trusted party. That's what I would say about liquid democracy. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sani. So this concept of liquid democracy, it seems to be different from what we are all used to. So I wanted to find out if there are reasons for which it's not really being embraced, because it seems to have advantages over the normal democracy we are used to. So the question here is, what are the advantages and which ways can we suggest to have people accept it instead of the conventional form of democracy we are all used to? Let's hear from the Essential first.
Hello? Hello?
Hello,
Yeah, we can
Essential,
hear
we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, liquid democracy is very beneficial. It has many benefits, and I want to just mention the fact that it can lead to increased participation because it basically allows the citizen to have a direct say in the decision making process. So in looking at voter apathy, we will have less of that happening because it basically increases the participation of people, allowing more people to vote, right? And also, there's more accountability basically because when we have liquid democracy, it increases the accountability. It allows the citizen to hold whoever they are voting for accountable for their decisions. So, I mean, overall, liquid democracy has a lot of potential, such that there's more participation, it's more efficient, and then much more representative. It's more representative, such that more people are able to participate in the election process, and then there's less apathy. So, I mean, these are some of the benefits that I believe that liquid democracy has.
All right. Please, to Sunny and Daniel, if there's anything you can add to what Essential has already said on the same question.
Yeah, so I'll add that as I indicated earlier, liquid democracy is a hybrid of direct democracy and representative democracy. Direct democracy was what was practiced during the Greek period, where at the highest point of Greek democracy, where each and every citizen was allowed to vote on an issue. But now modern society does not permit that because, we've grown, we are much more complex. So everyone cannot vote with regards to a specific issue. Then we have the contrast, which is representative democracy. That is what we are practicing in Ghana now, where we all cast our votes and then select someone to represent us, and then hope that that person makes our choices or decisions when it comes to deliberating on policy issues. But liquid democracy differs from these two because it incorporates these two. It incorporates direct democracy by allowing for proxy voting, where you can actually vote that your vote will be, the decision will be made by someone else who is a delegate. I don't know if you get it. So it allows, you can be passive. That is allow for someone to vote on your behalf. That which is representative democracy, or you can be active by voting for yourself on a particular issue. So it has actually created a space where both direct democracy and then representative democracy, that which we are practicing in Ghana, to both function. So at the end of the day, someone can even argue that it's the truest form of democracy because it allows everyone to select the form of democracy they want to function within the context of voting. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Any words on the question from Sunny?
Okay, thank you very much for that. I believe the people, one of the, we have diverse people in a country with different interests and different opinions. And one of the major reasons for them for their voice to be heard is in the area of policy, just giving them the opportunity to decide the policy that is going to be that will make them to live their life, to live a better life for them. And this liquid democracy is an avenue for equal participation in governance, giving the power to the people to decide how they want to live their life, how the policy that will be favorable for them to be able to live freely without challenge. And liquid democracy to me is one of the is one thing that I feel that will be helpful. I think one of the challenges I feel that one of the major reasons why these are maybe is not well known to a lot of people, and I believe as we go on and people are being educated about it, they see the importance about getting involved in the policy of their country. And I believe the avenue of the liquid democracy is one of the major tools that we can use to solve that. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sani. So, from everything that you've said, liquid democracy in a way is better than whatever we are practicing, what we are used to. But then it seems like there's a potential for abusing it, because if you can delegate your votes to others, it means probably the decision making can still be returned to the hands of a few people or some groups of people. And besides, you can't know for sure, I think, that the person will actually use their power the way you want them to. So I basically want to ask about the challenges or potential challenges of liquid democracy and if there's anything that can be done about them. Please, any of you can address it and in any order.
Yeah, so aside what you said, another potential challenge with liquid democracy is that, liquid democracy is hinged on the idea of having efficient technology. So for instance, you need access to the internet to vote. And so there is the issue where let's say people living in rural areas may not have access to the internet or even computers to vote. So then you can see them being exempted from a process that was intended to be democratic. That is an issue I found. However, I will still argue that liquid democracy, while being a challenge, is still the best we can hope for. And I say this because the main reason behind the concept of liquid democracy is to create the space for authentic choice, where whatever outcomes emerge from a policy debate are functional to citizens, irrespective of whether or not they vouched for direct democracy or representative democracy. At least with liquid democracy, there is the possibility of striking a balance between active and passive engagement. The argument sometimes made about democracy, whenever, let's say, there is a debate against democracy, what usually saves democracy is that you can never have a perfect system, but at least democracy is more perfect because it attempts to involve so many people, like the greatest number of people in the decision making. Now, liquid democracy is an extension of that. Liquid democracy, the idea behind it is that, okay, so we have those who are not necessarily going to, let's say, they can be people who are not knowledgeable in a particular issue. So maybe an issue like e-levy, the person might not understand the dynamics of economics. So he can then vote for someone, an expert, let's say an economic expert, to make decisions for them in that position, like at least with regard to that specific policy issue. That is where the difference comes in. And that is what indicates an extension, or the person can equally then vote for themselves within the election framework. So while it's a challenge, that challenge is there. Representative democracy in itself equally has some challenges, but we can actually analyze and then look at liquid democracy and then place it in a position of the 21st century, and then actually find a way to ensure that more people have access to the internet, and that is even happening on its own. More people are subscribing to internet use than before. So we are not in a perfect state to embrace liquid democracy, but we can actually start from now and then notice the challenges and better the context. Democracy is not predicated on the idea of having a perfect system. It's predicated on the idea of ensuring that the system in itself has a mechanism of correcting itself. So yeah, I think that is the main reason why I'll vouch for liquid democracy as opposed to direct or indirect democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Visensha and Sani, please let's hear from you.
All right, so can you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can hear you.
we can hear.
Yeah. So another thing is that, when it comes to liquid democracy, one interesting feature about it is that votes can also be delegated, right? So aside people being able to directly vote, votes can also be, delegated to someone or a group of people or organizations. Now, basically, what happens is that, again, power is transmitted to them. Power is concentrated in these people, and could also be could also harm, the beauty of direct democracy. So it may turn out that it may look no different than the traditional one that we have, but in any ways, like looking at the pros and cons, liquid democracy still stands out. So in order to solve this kind of thing, I mean, education should also be of high importance to the voters, so that they are well aware and informed of the decisions they make, who to delegate their votes to, and things like that, to ensure that whoever they delegate the vote to, whoever they choose, they are still making the right decision. And then we are still seeing the beauty of liquid democracy, even in spite of the fact that we still have delegation in there. So that's the letter that I would like to add to that.
All right, thank you for that, Visensha. Sani.
Okay. The idea of having every last citizen of the country being active in policy making and giving their full input, is the truth is that it's just not going to happen. That would be like, unfortunately, it's not visible enough. No matter how you try to make people get involved in the policy of they intend to have this lackadaisical behavior towards it. It's just a good example. Right now, people always give that excuse that they don't have access to the internet, but anybody who's so much concerned about is the happening of what happened in their society. They intend to go all out to make sure they get access to what will make them to be able to participate fully in governance and happen to participate in the decision making of their country. So And we are hoping that liquid democracy, and we're going to get full participation of citizens in their decision making of their country. I think that's what I have to say about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that, Sani. I wanted to also find out if there's a direct link between the voter apathy and liquid democracy, like the existence of one affecting the other or the other way around. And then also, okay, let's take to the first one. I'll make the second question different so that it doesn't get complicated. So is there a direct link or a relationship between the two concepts?
Okay, so yes, there is a direct link between the two concepts. One of the causes of voter apathy is voter fatigue, and voter fatigue can be defined as whatever circumstances causes someone to like a tiresome voting circumstance. So things that barriers to voting. So one of the reasons why someone might not go out there to vote is that probably there is a long queue, or that the voting exercises occurs too often. That can be a reason. So what liquid democracy allows is remote voting. That is, you can actually stay at the convenience of your room and then vote on decisions without having to, let's say, go out there and then queue to make a decision. So I find some linkage. One can affect the other, and that is liquid democracy can actually create the space for more people to vote, especially the reasons behind the low voter turnout is linked to a stressful procedure. Thank you.
Okay, I think I totally agree with you. I would say that majorly one of the major reasons why I will speak in the context of Nigeria. One of the major reasons why people don't come out to vote is they don't trust the government of the day to organize maybe a free and fair election for them. And secondly, the procedure for you to vote is one of the things that really affects the voter apathy that we have here in Nigeria. I see that if we are able to get it right in the area of allowing people to vote wherever they are, maybe with just a system, maybe you have with the help of blockchain technology, and it's well organized and people are able to just, with a click on their phone, they are able to vote for their preferred candidate. It's going to really solve the issue of voter apathy, and we get more participation of people in the voting process and the voting of their representatives. So I believe that if we're able to solve that, and it's going to really give room for more people to participate in the election process. And also, one thing that I noticed when it comes to the context of Nigeria is one of the challenges that we have that liquid democracy is going to solve is in the issue of where, for example, I registered my voter's card in a particular state and in a particular polling unit. I have to be in that polling unit and in that state, all the local governments to vote. But in the era of liquid democracy, and that really takes away a lot of interest for people to participate in the election process, because many of them may not be at the particular place that they ought to be at that particular time. So they ended up not losing interest to maybe travel from where they are to the place where they did the registration for the election. I don't know how it goes on with Ghana, but that's how it is here in Nigeria. And the liquid democracy will be an avenue for the blockage technology. Just even while I register anywhere, maybe with my phone, or register for my for the election in a particular polling unit or what have you, I should be able to vote possibly anywhere, and I should be able to maybe use my phone to vote for the candidate of my choice. I think that solves the problem of voter apathy. If liquid democracy will solve the problem of voter apathy. That's what I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your submission, Sani.
Yeah. All right. So I totally agree with all that they have shared. That liquid democracy goes a long way to solve some of the things that bring about voter apathy. For example, some people don't want to even go to say police stations because of security issues. Right. I think in the last election in Nigeria, I saw like a woman who sustained some injuries and things like that. So somebody could say, I love my life. I don't want to go. I don't want to have any injuries or anything. Probably if there are some hotspots that people they wouldn't want to go out to vote because they are afraid of their security going there in person. So liquid democracy, of course, using internet increases accessibility. You don't need to move an inch right from your home with a click of a button. You can actually vote. And also these votes are secure, right? You don't have things like rigging, having some like guys coming to just vote away with their ballot boxes and things like that. So with let's say with blockchain, the votes are verified as soon as the voting is finished. That's the beauty of it. You can even vote for change to trade it. And also it ensures that they are counted correctly, basically. So because of the decentralized ledger thing, it removes any central body, it removes any central body that can be influenced in any way. Also, when we are looking at some ballot boxes will be put in some corner and some few people will go and count it or will not be counted in the process. So let's say with the blockchain, votes are tallied and stored on an immutable public ledger. It's immutable. It cannot be hacked. It cannot be altered. Once the votes are casted, that is it. So it means that you can track your votes while they are being and counted. While they are being counted, it can also be counted. It's visible to everyone, ensuring that we have a transparent and trustworthy voting system. So basically, liquid democracy is coming to actually, it has a direct impact on voter apathy such that it can help drastically reduce it by taking off some factors that people look at and maybe may have some apathy towards the electoral process. So that's what I have to add to it.
Thank you very much for your submission, Vicentia. That was very insightful. So, from what I've gathered so far, the whole idea of liquid democracy can greatly reduce voter apathy. And even though it might have its own disadvantages, generally speaking, it encourages the population to take part of the electoral process and to make their voices heard. So for now, I want to ask if any of us has any statistical evidence or facts and figures to show the extent of voter apathy in our various countries within the most recent elections, or maybe the past 2 or 3 elections we've had.
Okay. Right from the time we started election here in Nigeria, I must say that we started voting our president from 1999, the official election that I know as a young child growing up, and is from 1999. And then we have 52.26% participation of citizens. They were fully involved in the election. And even in 2003, In 2003, when we have another election, the number increased from the percentage of the people who participated increased to 69%. So I get a surprise, in 2007, we had about 57%. And in 2011, we also have about 53%. And in 2015, the number went down. About 43% of the citizens participated in the election. And in 2019, or quite long, just like 3 years back before the one we had in 2015. In 2019, we have about 34%. And the recent one we just have is 2023 that we elected a new president into power. We have about 26%. 26% participation of the citizens and in the election, and this is not really helping, because I know that there's a lot of irregularities and there are a lot of power drums. I know all these figures in the area of percentage were likely manipulated. I can say that they were likely manipulated because gone are those days we don't have a system to coordinate for the election to be accountable. Majorly, the ruling party or people involved normally increase the figure most times. Increase the figure, maybe the total number of votes, they have the opportunity to increase the figure because of, we are going to support this particular political party, and since we're in power, we're not going to give room for others to they will know there's no way we can allow any other political party to win. So they go all out. If not now, recently, I think from 2015, we started getting BVAS, bimodal voting accreditation system, where you intend to, before you can vote in an election here in Nigeria, you have to accredit. They have to accredit you, and where you are able to vote, and there's a system that this system helps to manage the total number of votes in the polling unit and the entire general election. So it helps to know the right figure of people who truly participated in the election, not the figure that maybe was originally written, which is not the true figure. And it has really helped in curbing lots of election malpractice, because if not for the presidential election that we have issued, the recent election that we had in this year, 2023, maybe the senatorial and the representative election that we have, I can say that there's I can speak like about 50% of the election really goes well, and there were no issue of election. To some extent, there were no much issue of election malpractice. So I guess that's what I would say based on the figure as per Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you, Sani. I just saw an interesting submission in the chat box from Ezekiel Donko about the voter apathy. It says, fun fact, voter apathy was leveraged in Trinidad and Tobago in 2010 in the UNC-led Do So campaign with the help of Cambridge Analytica to influence young people to stay home instead of going to vote. It won the UNC party the election by a huge margin. And this sort of supports everything my panelists have outlined so far about how the voter apathy can affect the decision making as a whole. So let's hear from my other panelists, Vicentia and Daniel.
Can you please repeat the question for me? My network actually affected me, so.
All right, I was asking if we have any facts and figures to support the impact or the levels of voter apathy in the elections in our country, either the most recent ones or the last 2 or 3 elections?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. So you're talking about facts and statistics, right? I found some interesting statistics online. So I just decided to look at like Nigeria. Um, I found out that in 2019, like the presidential election was 35.6%, was 35.6%, which was quite kind of lower than the turnout for 2015, right? Which was 44. So in 2015, 44%, 2019, that's for the presidential election, 35.6%. I don't really have the facts for the very recent one, but from what I heard from the news and things like that, it's been the lowest. So I mean, as time goes on, we see receding figures and statistics for this, and we see that voter apathy is actually evident. So this is just some facts that I found concerning Nigeria.
Okay, so in comparison to Nigeria, I think Ghana has done better in terms of voter turnout, because in 2016 the figure was 68.62%, but in 2020 it increased to 78.89%. So there is more room for improvement, but comparatively, voter turnout in Ghana is higher than in Nigeria. Hello?
All right. Thank you for your submission, Daniel. Those are very interesting figures. So the whole idea of liquid democracy, in spite of how positive it is and all the benefits we know we will get from it, it's still quite new to us as a people, and introducing it might not be as easy as we would expect or we would hope it should be. And in addition to that too, people like, or more like because of that, people are probably going to have their doubts and other resistance towards it. So how can we get people to have more trust in the whole idea or the system of liquid democracy? And how can it also, the legitimacy of it, be established?
All right. So as in every new technology, um, during Nathaniel's presentation, we saw when people were talking about everybody switching to electricity. So that was going to kill everyone, right? So as with every new technology, there's always resistance, right? Even if let me step out of um, voting. We look at the financial space. We see new technology coming up. We see blockchain giving birth to amazing and interesting assets in the financial world, cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. And we see resistance. So blockchain being used in any other field, you're going to see that a lot of people do not really understand the technology, do not see how possible it's going to be, right? So one main thing that I see is education, right? Ensuring that education is done, and then making people see how real it is practically by rolling it in smaller ways, right? So we can employ blockchain voting in smaller versions, say maybe in the parliament when they are voting. Recently in Ghana, we saw some very interesting sceneries where they were having voting in the parliament house, and we could see people throwing blows here and there. Just a simple voting process, right? Which involves there's a paper and casting your vote. So we're rolling it out in smaller ways like this in the institutions. We're having some voting. Let people see how transparent the system is. Let people actually have a first-hand, feel of how this whole liquid democracy thing is and how effective it is. And with this understanding and sensitization and education, to roll it out on a larger platform like a national election. So that's what I would like to say. That education is really key in ensuring that people embrace this, and also rolling it out in very small ways that people can relate with. And I believe the understanding is going to be made clearer. So that's what I can say about that.
Okay, just to add to what she has said, education is key. When people are well informed about the benefits of liquid democracy and how blockchain technology can help them achieve that, it's going to be fully acceptable because people know, they will see the benefit of having good governance in Africa. I would propose blockchain technology myself but I'm going to see a lot of protests, a lot of revolts from the government because most of them are power drunk and they see that. And I just, one of the summary of what I want to say is anything that the government do not have control over, they intend to revolt against it. The reason why till now we will not have maybe the Nigerian government maybe adopt the use of cryptocurrency here in Nigeria. And I think there was some policy laid down for us, laid down in Nigeria here to reduce the use of cryptocurrency. But that didn't even discourage some of us. We still go on to use cryptocurrency. And, just like the recent election we had, these because the beavers that was used in Nigeria, they could go to the back end to see how they could checkmate the number of voters and the number of voted, because once you vote, the beavers also, you can, once the result is collated, it can be, you have to screenshot it and upload it to the server. So, and the reason why they have to adopt that means of, for the election process is because they have access to it and they can control it. And that's why most of us were not really happy with the process. That's why we're able to get it right in some little way to curb some election malpractice. But nevertheless, the blockchain technology will be a very good way for us to get it right in the area of electoral process here in Nigeria. So my thought is that once the people are well informed and they begin to protest as the use of blockchain technology for the electoral process of maybe a country like ours, Nigeria, is going to really help us to have good governance in our various countries. And the major people who is going to protest against, who will not allow it to fly, is the people who have delegated power to, maybe the senator, the House of Reps, who knows that if this policy should fly, if we use this technology, we might likely be voted out of office because they know that most of them are, they know most of them do not come into this the position based on a free and fair election process. So one of the things that I look forward to is having a blockchain technology that will help us to be able to carry out a free and fair election in Nigeria. I think that's what I would say as regard that. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so I'll add this that education should be focused on the youth because they are more likely to be tech savvy. And then this also increases the prospects of implementing liquid democracy in the future. Because unfortunately, we find ourselves in the context of representative democracy, and those in charge might be against it because of course they are in there, and then they are also aware of there's the likelihood that they might revolt against the concept of liquid democracy, because it's going to increase transparency and accountability. So for me, while I agree with education, I think we should focus more on the youth, because they are more likely to embrace change than the previous generations. So there should be education, but it should be focused on the youth.
Thank you, Daniel. So, how can we ensure that delegated votes are used responsibly and in the best interest of the voter? That's the person who gives the authority to someone else. And what are, generally speaking, the potential downsides to being able to make someone else vote on your behalf?
Okay, so one of the things we can do is to ensure that the technologies used for voting in the voting system are secured, like as in they are kept in a secure location with restricted access and video surveillance. So basically, we have to treat the issue with the importance with which we treat cybercrime, so that when there is a breach along the channels of voting, it can be easily identified. I think we have to focus basically on the technologies and ensure that they are safe and secure and transparent.
All right.
Then,
Also, to add to that, okay. Sorry, you can go on.
Yeah, so I was saying that, and then like the representative democracy we have now, we will equally need an independent body with no political affiliation to take charge. And then we also have to ensure that sensitive technologies are sealed, and then whenever we have access to them, we look for evidence of tampering, that whether someone did something to it. And with all this, the experts are needed, at least in the area of blockchain technology. So I think we will have to have more education on blockchain technology, so that much more people will be involved in the system to check it. Thank
Right.
you.
To add to that, also with regard to delegation, I believe that we should have some say ground rules or clear rules in who you can delegate to, and things like that. Basically, guiding rules or guidelines regarding to delegation. So that can also help to ensure that the right people are being delegated to, and then they don't also abuse power. And also, it will also help with accountability. And maybe we can have some sort of maybe feedback to whoever delegated power to you. You could have some feedback from whoever delegated power, delegated a vote to ensure that maybe your vote was really used rightly. Technology can be used to do this. You can have a feedback system to just ensure that whoever was whoever the vote was delegated to do the right thing, was not abuse of power. And most importantly, to ensure that everything sits right, you just need to have clear guidelines on who you can delegate to and any other excesses, or which can tackle the nitty-gritties of like who to delegate to and delegation. So that's what I want to add to that point.
Hello, Besensha.
Yes,
Please, I think your
yes.
voice went away for the last part of what you said. If you could go over the last part.
Yeah. So first of all, I mentioned that there should be clear guidelines on delegation. So like who you can delegate your vote to and things like that. Everything, like everyone, all the nuances surrounding it. Okay, and also maybe maybe there can be a feedback or report back feature where maybe those who delegated their vote, you can get feedback from those who represented them in a way, just to know that there was no abuse of power or anything of that. So this can be done on a very light note anyway. It may not be the core thing. It may help, like can be just secondary. But the main thing is once you have clear guidelines, I believe that guidelines will help basically shape the entire process of delegation and ensuring that power is not abused, and we don't resort back to creating the problems we are trying to avoid. Yeah, so that's all I said.
All right, thank you. So are there technologies or systems that can either minimize or reduce the risk of hacking or cyber attacks?
Hello.
Um,
Yeah. So there are ways of checking hacking because, as I indicated earlier, you can actually restrict access and then ensure that the experts are the ones handling the voting system in itself. So I indicated earlier that there was the need to keep the
To be
technologies
specific.
for voting in a secure location with restricted access and video surveillance. And then there is also the need to also verify seals and locks on all pieces of equipment. Then there's also the need for you to ensure that these systems are handed over to those experts in the area of blockchain. So I think we first have to adopt the system and then find ways of, revitalizing it in a positive way. We cannot make the system better without testing it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Daniel. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
Yes, I wanted to add. Okay. What I wanted to talk about was something different, but if whoever was about to speak was highlighting on this issue, then I'll wait. When the person is done, then I continue.
yeah, I was just adding that the blockchain in itself has very awesome characteristics to solve these hacking and all that. So it being decentralized, immutable, and everything. But that's not to say that the blockchain, technology or whatever smart contract to be used may have an interface, right, which can be just a normal interface. So ensuring that the right cybersecurity measures are taken in building these user interfaces, which may be presented to the people to ensure that like it's very easy to use, right? So if you say blockchain, it shouldn't be anything so complicated that people will see some complicated code or anything of that sort. They may be simply user interfaces with websites, and then the blockchain is working behind it, right? So ensuring that all these systems have high cyber security, and also the blockchain itself presenting some awesome features to ensure that we don't have these hacking or these manipulations by any centralized body. So that's all I wanted to add to.
Thank you for that, Vicentia. Time is far spent, so I'm going to have to skip to the very last question so that we can make time for the questions from the audience. So I want to know if there are any cultural or social barriers that could potentially prevent the widespread adoption of liquid democracy. And if there are, how can we address those?
One of the main barriers I think will be access to technology and the internet, because liquid democracy functions within the technological space. So this should be a barrier, especially for those in rural areas. For instance, now I'm working at Ishim and I hardly have access to the internet. I don't know what's causing that, but there are places where when you stand, you have no access to the internet. So I think a way of resolving this is to ensure for those in charge, especially government organizations in charge of the telecommunication networks as well, should see to it that network coverage that favors the internet is accessible in most parts of the country. That way, when there is a rollout of decisions under the context of liquid democracy, everyone will have equal access to that opportunity to vote.
Thank you, Daniel. Please, does anyone have anything to add? Vesensha and Sani. Hello.
Yeah, so I totally agree with the submission that has been made. And so basically, in terms of infrastructure, as you mentioned, internet access, because if you want to, for example, use blockchain-based voting, which will need the internet, and we have a very remote village, how can they also participate in this, right? So addressing issues of infrastructure is really, really important. As we herald new technology, nascent technology, it's not the holy grail. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have any challenges. It also has challenges, and one is infrastructure like internet, right? And also, let me say, maybe culture. Let me just say that people are just conservative and used to the old stuff, right? It's just a mindset thing, right? We see that in all kind of shifts, financial shifts, educational shifts, we have this kind of conservative, traditional mindset. If I say traditional, don't get me wrong, I just mean that people are just used to the old ways of doing things and do not embrace change easily. That can be another challenge. So, I mean, we cannot underestimate the power of education. Education, education, education. I believe when MTN, like for example in Ghana, when mobile money started, they had to do a lot of groundbreaking exercise with education, right? Because till date, people still don't even want to use mobile money. They want to go to the bank and form a queue. That's how they feel like their money is safe, right? So at every point in time, in any shift that we do have the fixed mindset. So education, I believe, is one way that we can also tackle this fixed mindset that may arise. Aside the infrastructure such as internet and all that, that also has to be seen to. Yeah. So that's all I can add to.
Thank you, Vesensha.
Hello.
Education is really
Hello.
visible. Let's hear from Sani.
Hello. I'm so
Hello,
sorry.
Sani, we can hear you.
Sorry, I've been cut off for some time now. I didn't mean to, so I'm at work, and my boss needed something, so I have to quickly attend to him. If I had to leave where I am because I was in my office cubicle to attend to him, he just mentioned that. So let's leave that. So based on what I heard from the discussion so far, I think I was able to get the last question you asked. I think one of the things that will help to introduce to get this work for liquid democracy to work in our various countries, in Africa. In fact, liquid democracy is an avenue for us to have good governance because it gives room for accountability. And I must say that we need to overlook the negative part of it and see how it's going to benefit us positively. And we need to go all out to make sure that whatever it takes, if it means for us to have us influencing the policy of our country, like maybe policy change to give room for us to have blockchain technology as an avenue used for people voice to be heard, for people to be involved in governance. It's one of the things that will really be a thing of joy for everyone. It's a thing of joy for me, I must say. And no matter the culture, sociocultural belief and what you think, because most times those days we have, even the election scenario of Nigeria, we have some top traditional rulers who often influence who to be voted for or who not to vote for who not to vote. And issue of the internet, maybe some people are not well exposed to internet in our various countries. Is something that can be worked around. Just like we mentioned, education. We should invest in the technology that will help us to get more people to be informed in what technology has to offer, the benefits of technology, and especially the benefits of blockchain technology. And education has a long way to go. The reason why most of us are on this call today is because we will pass through the educational system of our various countries, and we've been able to acquire knowledge. And the reason why I'm speaking the little English I'm able to speak to you today is because I had the opportunity to go to school. So I believe that if we are all out in the area of one policy change in our country, will be a good way. I think of recent, I am currently proposing a bill. I don't know if it's part of this. I'm currently proposing a bill in our educational system where I want everybody to be well informed about the constitution of our country. It is kind of limited for us to have only the lawyers in Nigeria who happen to know the constitution of our country. So, like, there's a policy document we're currently working on from our center, like our institution, like the think tank that we're currently co-founded, where we're working to change to include constitution in our curriculum, educational curriculum. We believe that from the young cradle, if you are well informed about your constitution, you know where it affects you the most, and you know how you're going to make sure to change that particular policy to that will be favorable to all. And that's one of the things I look out for. So there's nothing impossible. There's nothing, the change will definitely happen if we want it to happen. And if we want liquid democracy to be effective in Africa, it's all in our hands and it's all in educating others. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your submission, Sani. And thank you to all my panelists for this interactive and educative discussion. It's been a really wonderful session. And now I need to take questions from my audience. So kindly put your questions in the chat box. And if you want a specific panelist to address it, please indicate it under the question.
I have to add that we have Vladan on the call. He is from Sweden, and he has mentioned in the chat box that he works with a think tank that focuses on liquid democracy. So if you are willing to partner with him, he has dropped also his email in the chat box, so you can pick it up and then engage Vlad after here. And Ola, we are grateful for your time on this call. We also had earlier Madam Mercy. She was also from Canada, but then she had to part way with us because of other engagements. The participants, some of them you can also unmute yourself and then you ask your question. Those who can also, others can also drop it in the chat box so that the panelists can engage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathaniel. I think we have a question here from Ezekiel Donko. He says, has anyone got a well laid out plan for how this idea can be implemented in a small group? I think he's referring to liquid democracy. I hope I'm right. So my panelists, please help me with an answer for this. He wants to know how the idea can be implemented in a small group.
All right. So yeah, so in a small group, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. So yeah, so as we've talked about blockchain, we actually have solutions which have been built. There are many solutions which have been built, voting systems on blockchain that are being in use currently by even governments and things like that. But let me bring it home. So I have specifically teamed up with some people to build a product. I don't know if I could share my screen. Maybe okay, I can't share my screen, so I'll just drop it off. It's still in progress. So with such a blockchain solution like this, will amaze you that you can have elections as little as company elections to vote for the best worker or the most punctual worker, to music awards, to fashion awards, to whatever. I mean, whatever award that you want to, like those, any kind of voting thing that you want to do. We actually have a platform which is still under construction, and you can actually put out your election. And what happens is that anytime anybody votes, the vote is recorded directly on the blockchain, and anyone can cross-check. No matter your level of experience in technology, you can just click a button and check and see that indeed, your vote has been recorded on the blockchain. So unfortunately, I can't share my screen. So I'll just drop the website. So this is from Ghana. This is from a team from Ghana. And there are so many applications out there. But as I said, let me just bring it home so that it can be very relatable. So with this particular website, you can host any form of election you want, whether your church, whatever. I mean, no matter how small it is, in small groups, you can have these elections, test it and see how liquid voting or voting on a blockchain actually works. So I've shared it in the chat session. So just take a look at it. Maybe you can't tell the voting now because still under construction, but it's something that you can look at. And this particular platform was built on a blockchain called Tether, right? So that's how practical it is. It's real. It's ongoing now in other countries, and right here home you can have a platform like that, so you can organize any form of election that you want yourself. So that's what I have to say. Hello, I don't know if I was heard.
Thank you for your submission. It was heard clearly. Dr. Laura, take over.
Yes. Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, please, we can.
I have a question here from Azaleko. It says, does liquid democracy have an age limit, like what we already have in our existing democratic practices in most African countries? The 18 years and above rule. If there is a limit, how does it actually involve everybody? The debate on 18 years being the right age to participate in decision-making has been challenging on its own. So my panelists, over to you. Hello?
I did a presentation earlier on liquid democracy. And I mentioned that there is what we call consensus building. In every democracy, you have what we call social contracts. And the social contract is built with the people before they establish the constitution. Then they establish government. So in those activities, in the consensus building, if the people themselves say that, okay, let us use 15 years as the base or the limit for age to participate in governance, then that is the will of the people that has been expressed. So that is in every liquid democracy technology, there's what we call consensus mechanism, and that is one of the key underpinnings when you are looking at any blockchain. The consensus mechanism really matters, and that is where you set out rules for the entire protocol. So in your consensus mechanism, whatever the protocol agrees to work with, then that's become fundamental for the entire activity. So I think I'll end here. Then Essential was about saying something. Let her also add up. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathaniel.
Yes, just as Nathaniel has said. So for example, we have the blockchain, but the consensus, we have the consensus. That's the consensus mechanism carries the rules of agreement. So you can have a smart contract that to be executed. Now the smart contract embodies, it's just a code that's executed on its own. So the smart contract basically embodies all the rules. So whatever we agree on, if we say that only 15-year-olds or 18-year-olds can participate in this election, there are actually ways that this information can be verified on the blockchain. So when you go into the technical, very, very technical stuff, they call something the zero knowledge, stuff. I don't want to even go so technical, but it's in a way that you can get more information without revealing other stuff. It's really, really interesting. So blockchain makes provision for this with the technology whereby all these rules and agreements can be coded, put in the code, and then the necessary technology put in there to ensure that the right people participate in the election. So that's what I wanted to add to that.
All right, thank you for your response, Vicentia. Please, I hope your question has been well answered. This is to both Ezekiel and Azaleko. I hope your questions have been answered properly and to your satisfaction. I also want to encourage everyone to ask questions. We are here for your questions. Kindly ask.
The questions is either we all understand the concept of our discussion and the panelists have done a fantastic job, or we have all been confused. It's two ways. Okay, I think there's a question in the job also.
So Azaleko is asking if there's a platform to get.
Laura, your network, we seem not to be hearing you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Please proceed.
So, as Alaka was saying or asking if there's a platform to get on board, I don't know if what specifically you're talking about, if you could elaborate.
Okay, I believe that if he's looking for a way to get on board, I think the organizers of this program, if there's a community, if he wants to get on board in terms of learning more about liquid democracy or getting started in building solutions, you have your Institute. I believe you share your socials or community for them for people who are interested in learning more about liquid democracy or how to get started or get into the technical stuff. Maybe you want to build the next awesome blockchain solution that we can use for voting or elections or anything of that sort. I think you can get in touch with Nathaniel and then the Yako Institute. Also, if you're looking for platforms, I think you can try out this whole entire concept of blockchain voting. I've also dropped a website. That's the balance block. Let me drop it again so that you can try and see. I mean, we are working to get the blockchain part running, so you can also do that. So for this, we adopted for Ghanaian voting. Yes. Could be adopted for Ghanaian voting, right? We could adopt it for Ghanaian voting. But before we can go full scale national election, we can try it on a smaller scale, right? Before we can do anything grand, let's try little by little so that people understand it, and then education also goes out too. That's what I want to add to it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much, Essential. I'll mention that we have the Yafo socials available. That's on Twitter, it's Yafo Web, at Yafo Web, and then Facebook, you can find us, Yafo Institute on LinkedIn. We are also there. It's Yafo Institute on LinkedIn as well. When you come to the chat, I've dropped the link to the 8-block Telegram community page. So you click on that one, you can also join us there. On the first one is the 8-block. And then the second one is the Yafo University. So you can also join the Yafo University community, where we will bring you more interesting discussions and opportunities like this one. And we also have in mind to do the onboarding process for blockchain governance. That will also be coming up in a few months. So if you follow our pages, you also be alert on some of this, where we will take you through the process in participating in blockchain governance if you want to do something like that. So that is also a liquid democracy platform. And I also mentioned that Vladan has also dropped his email. That's also another onboarding process that you can also engage, and then you see how best that will also lead us to. So these are all the opportunities and the channels that are available that you can also join. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nathaniel. So to everybody who is interested in learning more on the subject, just to go over, there's the Telegram community, and the link is here in the chat box. There's also a link to Yafo University, the Telegram community for 8-block, and that's of Yafo University, as well as the link to the site of Yafo University. And then Essential also dropped another link to Ballot Block, so you can have a bit of a feel of how this whole thing works. Do we have any more questions? It's looking like everyone is satisfied now. I'm going to give about a minute or two, and if there are no more questions, we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I must also add that we thank the Cardano community, Project Catalyst, WADA, Landano, for also supporting this project as well. And we urge participants to follow us, because we have more staffs at the institute, whether at both Yapo and then 8 block. So you can also engage us over there as well. So I'll hand over to Doc to bring closure if there's no question.
All right. So this has been a fun and very, very educative session. We started with the presentation on liquid democracy. Nathaniel broke down the concepts for us, and then our panelists helped us digest voter apathy and its relationship with liquid democracy. And we've all learned about how liquid democracy can be a very good solution to help reduce or maybe completely get rid of voter apathy. So hopefully everybody has learned something. I know I've learned a lot. And we've also learned about the potential risks. Of course, no system is completely perfect. Potential risks of liquid democracy, but all in all, I think we will agree that it's a good technology and we should embrace it and also help educate and sensitize people around us on its uses and its importance. I would like to thank my panelists and everyone, all my participants, for your time and for participating in this discussion. And I would encourage all of us to continue to engage with this issue outside of this forum and to also stay informed, keep reading and learning about the evolving landscape of democracy. Thank you all for your time and enjoy the rest of your day. And please don't forget to follow the platforms on the links we've provided in the chat box. Very, very important, so that when we have future spaces like this, you will have the information.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks to the panelists for your inputs. Thank you.
Thank you too, and thanks for having me.